I couldn't have a meal without calculating the calories in my head. I couldn't go out and enjoy food without feeling guilty. I couldn't go to a restaurant without anxiety. And I definitely couldn't have a cookie without demolishing the whole box. That's how my relationship with food looked like a few years ago. And it took me years to unlearn toxic diet culture, challenge my own beliefs, and rebuild trust in my body again. Today, I'm sharing exactly how I've done it and how I help clients get rid of the constant food noise and achieve food freedom. And as a hormone and women health coach, this is a vital topic to talk about because I truly believe that cultivating a positive relationship with food and equally your body is the foundation. You can do all the biohacking you want, either the perfect hormone balancing meal and cycle sync your workouts. But if your mindset is tangled in diet culture and you have fears around food or disordered behaviors around eating, then you're always going to be sabotaging your health journey. Let me paint you a picture of what life looked like when my relationship with food was at its worst. I had so many food rules because I thought that's what it takes in order to stay on track and to ultimately achieve my dream body. You can't eat after 6 p.m. You can't eat fats. You can't eat carbs. You can't have breakfast. You have to train fasted. You have to log every single thing you eat. You need to start your day with apple cider vinegar and celery juice in order to burn fat. Only allow yourself a cheat meal on a Friday and then overcompensate with a HIIT workout the following day. I genuinely could go on and on how much I analyzed food and complicated things. I thought about food constantly. What I'm gonna have for my next meal, when can I eat again, whether that food is good or bad, what I would love to eat but I couldn't allow myself to. Food took up so much mental space that I found it so hard to focus on anything else, because if I was working, I was constantly thinking about what my next meal is going to look like and whether it fits within my calories. When I was going to bed, I would be hungry and thinking about food, but I couldn't allow myself to eat because I've already hit my calorie target for the day. And every time that I would eat something quote unquote bad, then I'd feel so guilty because this voice in my head would be constantly telling me, you're such a failure, you're never going to reach your goals, why are you like this, why don't you have willpower or discipline? And because I would feel so bad about myself for going off plan, I would use food as a coping mechanism because temporarily it made me feel good. It gave me like this dopamine release, but of course that was only short-lived, and that would follow with guilt and shame, which would lead to restriction, and this vicious loop went on and on and on. And all of this wasn't just mental, it was physical too. I lost my period for 5 years. I was bloating, I was breaking out, constantly tired, all because I was under eating and overtraining and stuck in this constant state of stress because of how much mental space food was taking up in my head. Looking back, my body was giving me so many signals that my relationship with food wasn't healthy. But in that time, I was so wrapped up with chasing a certain body size and shape that I ignored all of these signals. My biggest turning point was not having a period, and initially I shared that before in my previous videos on my journey with losing my period and how I regained it, but initially I sort of seen it as a blessing. I was naive, I didn't understand the importance of having a period, but over time, being so disconnected from myself, I knew something had to change, and a big part of it was actually working on the relationship with my food. The first thing that I had to do was stop moralizing food. Food is neither good or bad, nor are you a good or a bad person for eating certain foods. I had to stop saying to myself, oh, you were so good today, you stuck rigidly to your calorie target, or you were so bad today, like you had that pizza and you followed it with cookies, you are such a failure, or you deserve a treat because you done a hard workout, or you shouldn't eat as much because you didn't work out today. Look, you need to stop labeling yourself as good or bad based on what you eat. You haven't committed a criminal crime in order to make you a bad person. You also haven't done anything overly positive to contributing to a community by simply eating. Some foods are more nutrient dense, other foods are more fun, and there is a place for both in a balanced diet. Yes, food is fuel, it's nourishment, but it's also pleasure, connection, culture. But by no means it's a moral issue. I also stopped tracking calories, and look, maybe at the beginning of my fitness journey it served some purpose. It kept me accountable. It also gave me an insight into the calorie content of certain foods, the protein, carb, fat breakdown of certain foods. And that was knowledge. It allowed me to look at foods and put a balanced plate together. Maybe it wasn't the most optimal way to learn nutrition. I take a different approach with my clients in terms of educating them around certain foods, and in a lot of cases it doesn't involve calorie tracking. But you know what? I do not blame calorie tracking as the factor that contributed to my disordered relationship with food. It's not inherently bad, so maybe it served me a purpose at the beginning, but over time it got obsessive. I tried to eat as little as possible. I tried to maximize the amount of food I could eat for as little amount of calories as I could, which means that I was always choosing low calorie, low fat, low carb alternatives, which really lacked in the essential nutrients that support my mood, my energy, my cycle health. And it got into the point that I couldn't eat a meal without knowing how many calories are in it, and I had to track every single thing that went into my mouth. So it just got obsessive, and it was no longer serving me a purpose. It was creating more stress, more anxiety, more overwhelm. And tracking was keeping me disconnected from my body. I completely lost touch with hunger and satiety signals. I didn't know when I was hungry. I didn't know when I was full, because I was going off what an app was telling me rather than really listening to what I need. As women, our calorie nutrient needs change throughout the month, which is something I ignored as well. So I completely stopped tracking. I deleted my FitnessPal and decided that I am going to relearn to trust my body again. And you know what? At the start, it was hard. You know, it sounds maybe so simple as deleting an app and not logging your food, but if that's something that you're used to and it gives you this level of control, letting go of that control is uncomfortable, but it's the best thing that I have done for my overall well-being. I also gave myself ultimate permission to eat. No food was off limits, nothing was forbidden. When you tell yourself you can't have something, your brain becomes obsessed with it. If I told you right now, whatever you do, don't think of a pink elephant, the first thing that you would do is think of the pink elephant. You wouldn't be able to get that out of your head. The same thing happens with food. When you tell yourself you can't have cookies, all you want is cookies. And eventually your willpower runs out, which we have a limited amount of, and it decreases as the day goes on. You don't just have one cookie, you eat the entire box. When you give yourself permission to eat the cookies or whatever food it is, any day, any time of the day, that obsession disappears. There's no scarcity, there's no restriction. You know you can have a cookie tomorrow, so you don't find a need to consume the entire box in one sitting. This concept, it's called habituation, and it's backed by science. When you allow yourself unrestricted access to food, over time, the power that that food has on you disappears. When I stopped restricting, I found that I actually had more control over food than less, which I know sounds counterintuitive, because you may feel like if you allow yourself to eat whatever you want, you will have pizza and donuts for breakfast and eat like this for the rest of the day. But that's not what happens, because when you're deciding not to have something, it's now coming from a place of autonomy. It's a decision you're making it based on maybe how you want to feel for the rest of the day, but it's not coming from a place of restriction or that you can't have something. And when you aren't restricting, you also naturally lean into having more balanced meals, because you are recognizing that that's what your body wants. Now, I also realized that a lot of my disordered eating behaviors came from a place of numbing my emotions. I would eat when I was sad, I would eat when I was bored, I would eat when I was anxious, I would eat when I was angry, because food gave me this temporary release. It made me feel good in the moment. That was a big part of healing my relationship with food, and that was learning new, healthier coping mechanisms, journaling my thoughts, going out for a walk in nature to calm and ground myself, talking to a trusted friend, essentially building out a toolbox of alternatives when certain emotions arise, what I can lean on that isn't food. That was uncomfortable work. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't until I addressed why I was using food to numb my emotions and to cope, I couldn't fully heal. Another thing was looking at food through a wider lens than just calories. Before, I only seen as food as how many calories it's going to give me and sticking within a certain calorie target. But over time, especially when I was working on regaining my period, I shifted my focus from just calories to also nutrients. Seeing food as the building blocks that are going to provide my hormones with the nourishment it needs and thereby support my mood, my energy, my cycle health, my skincare, my hair, my nails. And then eating didn't become just about eating as little as possible, but about how can I fuel myself in the best way possible. And this wasn't shifting from one obsession to the other, because that's quite common, where we go from obsessing about calories to obsessing how clean and healthy the food is. I followed the 80-20 principle, and that is that I aimed for 80% of my food to be whole, nutrient dense, minimally processed, because I knew that it's packed with nutrients and it's going to keep my blood sugar stable. But I also recognize that my diet doesn't need to be 100% perfect all the time. And there's also food that are the more fun foods, like the chocolate, the sweets, the takeouts, the drinks. And they don't need to serve a purpose of nourishing and fueling my body, because they serve a purpose of pleasure, the enjoyment, the connection that it brings. And I would argue that without that 20%, you may feel more miserable than if you have a 100% perfect diet. Because if it means that you're saying no to so many things, you're creating so much mental stress in your head. And this is exactly what I was doing with even the focus of calories. The 80-20 principle has really allowed me to approach nutrition in a more flexible way and don't put so much pressure on myself for every single thing that I eat to be perfectly balanced or perfectly clean. So just to recap, the main things that have helped me with healing my relationship with food were to stop moralizing food and also stop labeling myself as a good or bad person based on what I ate, deleting my FitnessPal, giving myself the ultimate permission to eat, working on healthier coping mechanisms to deal with my emotions, viewing food as more than just calories, and approaching my nutrition from an 80-20 perspective. Now, let me tell you what life looks like years into this healing journey. I don't think about food all the time. Okay, maybe from like a positive way. Like I'm such a foodie, so I feel like I'm always sort of thinking about food, but it's more so like, ooh, what sort of sweet treat I will make for me and my boyfriend this week, or what sweet treat are we getting with our coffee, or looking up like restaurants if we're going for a weekend away, from that perspective. But on a day-to-day basis, I plan what we're gonna have for the week, write a grocery shopping list, and then just crack on. Like, I'm not thinking about my next meal because I'm fully satisfied. I'm not going to bed hungry and thinking what I'm going to have for breakfast. I am not over analyzing restaurant menus days before I'm going to be going out for a meal. Like, I'm just not stressing over it. I can eat anything without guilt. I can eat a pizza, I can eat a cookie, I can eat ice cream, whether that's a Monday, whether it's a Saturday. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel the need that I need to overcompensate with cardio or a lot of steps from doing it. I don't try to like restrict my food in order to like bulk up the calories for that meal. I just eat it, enjoy it, and move on. But I also eat protein, vegetables, complex carbohydrates. 80% of my diet is really balanced, and I don't eat that way because I think that's healthy or that I should. It's because I genuinely see how great I feel by eating like a really balanced, nutrient-dense diet. I can actually enjoy social events. I can go to a restaurant and pick whatever I want from the menu that looks good and not based on how little calories it has. I can go to parties and enjoy a drink if that's what I want, or a couple of drinks without the anxiety. I can eat a birthday cake without it turning into a binge. Food no longer controls my life. It's just simply part of the experience. If you're gonna get anything from this video, know that healing your relationship with food isn't a quick fix. You're undoing and unlearning years, if not decades, of toxic diet culture and disordered eating patterns. You gotta be patient with yourself. Progress isn't linear. You're gonna have good days and you're gonna have hard days, and that's all part of the process. So don't think that if you messed up that you need to throw it in the towel and you simply stuck with food noise forever, because that is not the case. It's going to be hard, and accepting that just releases the pressure from you. And lastly, when you stop restricting, you might gain weight. I feel like I had to say it because there's so many people saying that like nothing will change and you're going to have this amazing healing journey, but The thing is that your body has probably been deprived of some healthy weight and body fat for years if you've been under eating constantly. For me, I've gained 15 to 20 pounds when I was on my healing journey, and yes, that was hard, but you know what, that weight came with my period returning, my energy doubling, my mood stabilizing, my overall mental health was just in a much better place. And I've just listed out a whole lot of things of how my approach to food is now, and you know what, I will take that any fucking time over being super lean and skinny. Let's wrap it up here. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it has given you hope that healing your relationship with food, getting rid of the constant food noise, and achieving food freedom is absolutely possible. I'm a prime example of that, and I've also helped hundreds of women do the exact same, so I know it's possible for you too. If you're new here, hi, my name is Martina. I share content around hormones, women's health, diet and lifestyle to help you understand and connect to your body better. If this resonates, give me a follow as I share videos daily.